I'm Victor. I'm heading back to my hometown to crash with my parents. After going through a rough patch with work and relationships, I decided to live in the basement since it has everything I need, like a bathroom and a kitchen. It makes me feel like I'm living in my own place. Other than working at my new job, I'll just be hanging out in the basement, reading, listening to music, and enjoying my own space. And it's this basement that both put me at risk and helped me get away from it. A few months ago, one night, there was a crazy storm and I was home alone. After checking all the doors and windows upstairs, I went back to my own space. I turned on the light, read a book, and just enjoyed the sound of the rain. It was so relaxing. By the time my eyes got tired and heavy, I put the book down, but kept the light on like usual and went to bed. The next second, the light went out, and I was engulfed in darkness. I wasn't really freaked out or confused. It's pretty normal for a storm to mess with the power lines. I figured I'd just sleep like that, and everything would be back to normal by morning. I closed my eyes for a bit, then got jolted awake by a loud bang. At first, I thought it was a broken tree branch hitting the window. But the second time, the sound was followed by what I was pretty sure was a metallic noise. The third time I heard the loud noise, I was sure the window had been broken. I jumped up like hell, ran to the basement door, and quietly locked it. Back in bed, I fumbled for my phone to call the police, but the Wi-Fi was down when the power went out, and there was no phone signal. I went back out, stood by the basement door, and tried to listen. Then I realized staying in here was pointless. This basement had no windows, and there was no way out if something went wrong. I held my breath, unlocked the door again, and tiptoed out. My heart was pounding with every step, and it was getting clearer. There were about 2 or 3 people, and they started searching the house upstairs. They were whispering to each other, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. I pictured the house layout. Go upstairs, turn right, and you'll see the kitchen. The window there could help me escape. Using the darkness to my advantage, I started putting this crazy plan into action. Just a few steps I'd usually take, but for some reason, it felt so exhausting in that moment. My mouth was dry, my heart was racing, and I tried to push down my fear to save myself. About 5 steps away from the floor, all I could make out were the blurry silhouettes of 3 guys from the flashlights in their hands. They were all tall, and there were a lot of them, but what really made me freeze was the thing they were holding. Guns. I gasped right away. My mind was all over the place, and the house suddenly felt unrecognizable. Find a way to the basement. Victor's down there. Don't let him know you're coming. What the heck? They know my name. What's going on? Who are these people? I almost lost my balance and nearly fell back into the basement. A chill ran down my spine as I heard the footsteps of the 3 guys above and their flashlights' faint beams shining through the gaps in the stairs. There were only 5 more steps, but why did each one feel so long? And time seemed to slow down. The guns in their hands made it hard to breathe, and my legs felt like they were going to give out. There was only one thought in my head. How the hell do I get out of here? But the atmosphere felt like it was closing in, suffocating me. Hearing the whispers and footsteps fade away, my mind was too scrambled to come up with a clear plan. In the end, I decided to just run as fast as I could, charging straight into the fear and pushing through it. Only then could I hope to get out. I finally made it to the kitchen, and just then, one of the 3 guys who broke in showed up. He pointed the light at me, and without wasting a second, I opened the window and jumped out. The cold and the force of the storm hit me right away and woke up my nerves. I had just one goal, to get as far away from the house as possible. The road ahead was pitch black, and the only light I had was the occasional flash of lightning to guide me. I tried not to look back, even though I could hear screams and gunshots getting farther away behind me. I ran to the neighbor's house nearby, knocked on the door in a panic, and when it opened, I just collapsed, totally exhausted and cold. The middle-aged neighbor, looking worried, quickly pulled me inside and called the cops right away. In the middle of the storm and all the chaos, I could only breathe a sigh of relief, knowing I was finally safe. Later that night, the place was a mess, with signs of a break-in, and all the valuables were gone. The aftermath of that horrible night wasn't just the stuff I lost, but also the mental scars that stuck with me. I couldn't go back to the basement anymore. Every time I thought about going back, I'd get this wave of panic, like the thieves were still out there, just waiting for the chance to hit again. The banging, footsteps in the night, and the dim flashlight on the stairs, everything turned into creepy memories. I started jumping at every little noise around me. I felt stuck between two worlds, my normal everyday life and this dark world of scary memories. I started going to therapy so I could talk about how I was feeling without worrying about being judged. I also started doing medication and working out to keep my mind and body in balance. But real peace still felt pretty far off. Every time it rains and night falls, the creepy feeling comes back.
My name is Gail, and I was 12 years old when this happened. Summer in our small Arizona town was always hot and quiet. My parents worked all day, leaving my 6-year-old sister Emma and me at home. Our single-story wooden house sat at the end of a long driveway, surrounded by tall oak trees. That day, it was around 2 p.m. Emma was lying on the living room rug, watching cartoons, while I sat at the kitchen table doing my homework. Our dog, Lucky, was sleeping by the back door, tongue lolling out from the heat. A loud banging at the front door startled me. It wasn't a polite knock, but heavy thumps. Emma turned her head to look at me. "Sarah, someone's at the door." I stopped my homework and walked into the living room. Through the window beside the front door, I saw a strange man standing outside, staring at us. His face and attire were so contrasting that I still remember them clearly. He was dressed neatly, but his face was covered in a thick, bushy beard. He held a pink briefcase with Mickey Mouse on it, which looked very eye-catching. When he saw me looking intently, the man smiled, pointing at the briefcase in his hand. I couldn't tear my eyes away from it, partly because of its bright color, partly because I kept wondering, why would a grown man carry a child's briefcase? I didn't open the door. Mom had told us never to open the door for strangers when no adults were home. The man continued to wave, smiling. He pointed to the briefcase, then pointed to the door, as if to say he had something for us. "Sarah, what does he want?" Emma came over to me, her voice trembling. "I don't know. Stay away from the door." I pulled my sister back, my eyes still fixed on the outside. The man stood there for a few more minutes, then suddenly turned away. I thought he was leaving, but no. He walked along the side path of the house, heading towards the back. My heart pounded. I ran into the kitchen, looking through the back window. The man had reached the back door, standing right outside the wooden steps. He placed the briefcase on the ground, then grabbed the doorknob. Lucky sprang up, fur bristling, barking loudly. The doorknob was violently rattled. The door shook, but luckily, Mom always locked it securely whenever she left. The man stopped, looking into the house through the back door's glass. His eyes met mine. He smiled, then gestured with his hand for me to open the door. "No." I shook my head hard. He continued to gesture, this time more urgently. Why did he want to enter our house? Why wasn't he saying anything? Emma ran to me, clutching my arm tightly. "Sarah, I'm scared." Lucky barked incessantly, constantly lunging towards the back door. The man didn't seem afraid or annoyed by the barking. He just stood there, patiently gesturing for me to open the door. I ran to the landline phone in the living room. With the mind of a 12-year-old, I wondered whether to call Mom or the police first. Suddenly, Emma burst into loud sobs. I couldn't even make the call. I quickly dropped the phone and ran to my sister. I hugged her, trying to comfort her. Looking back at the man, he had pressed his face against the door, his smile wider now, his hand still waving. I tried to make my voice loud and clear. "I've already called the police. They're on their way." Through the glass, I saw the man stop gesturing. He tilted his head, as if listening. Then he gave a chilling laugh, as if he knew I was lying. He continued to stand there looking into the house with patient eyes, as if he could wait all day. Suddenly, I remembered. Grandma was on her way to visit us. She would be here around 3 p.m. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 2:45 p.m. I quickly pulled Emma back into the living room to call Grandma. My voice trembled as I told her about the strange man. Listen carefully. You and Emma run to the back bedroom right now. Lock the door, and Grandma will be there soon. I did exactly as she said. We ran into Mom and Dad's bedroom in the back of the house, and I locked the door. Emma crawled onto the bed, while I sat close to the door, listening. Lucky was still barking, but now the barks were less frequent. 5 minutes stretched like an eternity. Finally, I heard the engine of Grandma's car. The car door slammed shut. Footsteps on the pathway. Sarah! Emma! Grandma's voice echoed from the front. I opened the bedroom door, ran out, and hugged her tightly, crying loudly. Grandma kept asking if my sister and I were okay, and she checked to see if either of us was hurt. She quickly ushered us inside, locked the door, and called the police. My parents also rushed home. There were no signs that he had tried to break in. The back doorknob wasn't damaged. There were no footprints in the soft earth under the windows. The police concluded the man likely had mental health issues. The man never returned. It's been 11 years since that day, and I still vividly remember his smile. And I still wonder, what was in that pink briefcase? Why did he want to enter our house? Some questions never get answers. I'm Chasey. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, and my little sister Lauren is 8. This is the unforgettable story of me and my sister's crazy and scary Christmas Eve last year. My family wasn't like those TV families with a Christmas tree loaded with presents or a cozy dinner by the fire. My dad worked hard, but we were still struggling with money. My mom, who was really my stepmom, drank a lot and barely cared about us. That Christmas Eve, my dad drove 3 hours to work. My stepmom got drunk and passed out in the afternoon, leaving us to take care of ourselves. I still wanted to make a good memory for Lauren. I'd saved up some money from my part-time job to buy Lauren a little gift, a dog keychain she really liked. When I gave her the gift, Lauren's eyes lit up, and her big smile made me feel like all the effort was totally worth it. Lauren surprised me even more. She gave me a handmade card with a thank you note and cute little drawings. A weird, warm feeling spread through my heart. We sat next to each other, all curled up in a big blanket, eating popcorn and watching Christmas shows on the old TV. Everything felt calm and happy. But then, there was a sudden knock at the door. Lauren jumped up and yelled, "It's gotta be Dad!" and ran toward the door without thinking, but I quickly pulled her back. Before he left, Dad had told me real seriously, "Don't open the door to anyone, especially on Christmas Eve. That's when bad guys can take advantage of things." Lauren still wouldn't listen and kept trying to run to the door. She looked through the peephole and shouted, "It's Santa Claus! Chasey, open the door!" But I felt a sense of unease rising in my heart. I looked through the peephole and saw a guy in a red suit and a Santa hat. But the look in his eyes was nothing like I'd imagine a nice Santa would have. His cold stare at the door made my skin crawl. I pulled Lauren away from the door, trying to sound firm. "You can't open the door. That's not Dad, and it's definitely not Santa." The guy outside started using a sweet voice, saying he just wanted to give us presents. But I wasn't fooled. I yelled through the door, telling him to leave. Instead of giving up, he got even more patient. The knocking got louder, more regular, and kept going. He pulled some stuff out of his pocket and started messing with the lock. My heart was pounding, and Lauren was shaking as she clung to me. I pulled Lauren over to the landline to call my dad, but the phone was dead, and my sisters and I just got more and more freaked out. At this point, I decided to call 911, but the operator didn't believe me and thought we were just messing around. I felt totally helpless and hopeless. Meanwhile, Lauren ran upstairs to wake up her stepmom, but nothing could get her to wake up. Lauren ran back down, hugged me, and then just broke down in tears. Outside, the sound of the door being broken down kept getting louder, and the creepy guy's laugh sounded like he was enjoying watching my sisters and me freak out. I had to come up with a way to fix this situation. I looked around the living room and stopped when I saw the smoke alarm on the ceiling. An idea popped into my head. I decided to create an emergency so the fire department would come and help us. I grabbed a roll of tissue, lit a small candle, and held it up to the smoke alarm. The fire alarm went off loud, and about 10 minutes later, I heard the fire truck siren. We sighed in relief when we saw the headlights shining through the window. But what was even crazier was the guy outside the door suddenly yelling really loud. He said he was our dad, pretending to be Santa Claus, but got stuck outside. His voice came through urgently, asking the firefighters to break down the door. The fear that hadn't completely gone away hit me even harder. My hands were freezing, but the worry about my sister's safety and mine made me feel stronger than ever. I knew that right then, I had to act fast. I remembered the family photo hanging on the wall in the living room. I quickly grabbed the photo, ran out, and cracked the door open, holding it up with shaky hands. I told the firefighters everything that happened. The guy outside wasn't my dad. He was a scammer who'd tricked us and was trying to break down the door. When the firefighters gave him suspicious looks, the creep immediately turned to run but got held back. The police were called right away, and the guy was quickly restrained. Once the situation was settled, the firefighters called my dad's work to let him know about the emergency. My dad came straight home that night. When he found out what happened, he was really mad. He and my stepmom got into a huge argument and then decided to get a divorce. My dad said that me and my sisters were the most important things in the world. My dad also switched jobs so he could spend more time taking care of us. That Christmas Eve was super scary, but it also made me realize how much power and responsibility I have as the oldest sister. And most importantly, it brought a change to my family, a new start to a better life, one without fear or lack of love.
I am James, a student at FSU, Florida. My family lives far away in Gruene, Texas, so I only go home during long breaks and on important holidays. I don't have any siblings. All of my parents' love and attention are focused on me. Each time I return, my parents are always joyful and happy. Everything was peaceful until the horrifying event that happened in the summer after I completed my first year at university. I joyfully hugged my parents, taking a deep breath of the familiar and peaceful air of home. The next day, I helped my dad clean up the backyard garden as I had promised. My family has a fairly large backyard, and when I was younger, I used to invite my friends over to camp overnight. After many years of neglect, my dad decided to clean it up and build a shed there. Thanks to my dad's plan, I was overjoyed to rediscover my treasure after many years of being forgotten. The treehouse on the large oak tree, that was the birthday gift my dad had carefully prepared for me when I turned 9. A feeling of nostalgia rose in my heart, as if a part of my memory that had been buried in the past suddenly awakened. Each crack, each loose piece of wood seemed to remind me of a time long past, the days when I was a child, running around here, laughing and playing with my friends. I used to be so happy and proud to own it. From that day on, I visited the treehouse every day, cleaning up, reinforcing the rotting stairs, and fixing the cracks caused by rain and wind. One evening, my parents went to a party at Uncle Jim's house, a longtime friend of our family. Since I wasn't feeling well, I declined to attend. While my parents were away, I decided to visit the treehouse once again, as a way to find some peace and reconnect with a forgotten memory. The dim light from the street lamp cast a faint glow onto the backyard where the treehouse stood. The house seemed like a silent ghost, old and worn, with its gray roof fading over the years. Despite that, it still stood strong, as if waiting for me to return. I walked across the yard, my heart filled with mixed emotions, each step bringing me closer to my childhood days. I shuddered slightly, but didn't think much of it. I pulled the ladder up and climbed into the house.
The space inside was cold and still. The old walls and the dusty bookshelf made me feel like I had just stepped through a time portal. I sat down on the old chair, trying to enjoy the peaceful feeling, but suddenly, a faint noise from outside startled me. I stood up, walked to the small window, and looked out into the backyard. Two figures were sneaking up toward my parents' house. The streaks of light from the street lamps cutting through the darkness made me realize they were holding guns. A wave of fear spread throughout my body, and I quickly pulled my phone from my pocket and called the police. But unfortunately, one of them noticed me, probably because I had spoken quite loudly in my fear. One of them shouted loudly, and without waiting for me to respond, he began heading toward the wooden house. In that moment, everything seemed to collapse. My heart raced, and my throat tightened. I meant to run, but I didn't have time. They were already very close, gripping their guns tightly and aiming them at me. In a moment of panic, an idea suddenly came to me. I rushed out the front door, and with all the strength I could muster, I pulled up the wooden ladder, at least cutting off their only way up. I shut the door and windows of the treehouse tightly, barricading myself inside, hoping the police would arrive soon. Luckily, my father had been very careful and meticulous when securing the locks on the house. When I heard the crunching footsteps outside the treehouse, the anxiety within me immediately turned into panic. A suffocating feeling spread through my body, and each breath seemed to make the air around me even more stifling. The small door of the treehouse began to creak under the pressure of stones and the wooden planks left behind after cleaning up the garden. The feeling of fear spread like a wave, with every sound making me jump. The first gunshot rang out, a deafening blast that made my heart skip a beat, and I almost collapsed. The next gunshot rang out closer, followed by a series of bullets embedding into the wooden body of the house. One of them slipped through a rotten gap I hadn't had a chance to fix. I backed into the corner of the room, trying to stay calm, but the truth was, there was nowhere to hide. The house was too small and fragile. The two thieves continued to shout, curse, and threaten relentlessly. The sound of police sirens in the distance brought a sense of hope, but a part of me still didn't dare to breathe. The two thieves shouted curses before leaving. It took me quite a while to calm down and finally leave the treehouse. It was then that I called my parents. They returned in a panic and hugged me tightly. After more than 2 hours of playing hide and seek with the police, the two thieves were finally caught. Luckily, it only took me a few days for my mind to truly stabilize. The first thing I did was help my dad repair the treehouse. It was a beautiful part of my childhood memory, and also my savior in the moment I faced danger.